What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Midwest.motogirl podcast. I am coming at you today with the episode that you guys have been looking for, asking for, waiting for. We are talking about what it was like to race at the Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas. Before I get into the podcast episode, I just want to give a shout out to Plus Racing Gear. If you are watching the podcast, I've got my Plus Racing apparel on today. Head over to their website and check out all of their suits and custom gear. Now let's get into the podcast about what it was like to race at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas over the 4th of July. I can't think of any more America way that I could have celebrated the 4th of July. If you are new to the podcast or you're new to motorcycle racing, or maybe you're not familiar with motorcycle racing, so Circuit of the Americas is a premier racetrack. It's a pro-level facility. MotoGP, which is like the international pro motorcycle racing, like the most elite of the elite of the elite, best motorcycles in the world, they race with MotoGP. So Circuit of the Americas, or COTA, is what a lot of people call it for short, is a MotoGP facility. MotoGP has had a contract with them for several years. I remember going down there in 2014 with my dad, and we volunteered to be corner workers, like flaggers. And the facility was beautiful back then. It's still beautiful. But it's also like an F1 track. So if you watch Formula One, but like think elite professional motorcycle racing. Moto America, which is professional motorcycle racing in the United States, they also go there, and they do a round at Circuit of the Americas. But part of the reason that this is a big deal, that we were all able to race at the Circuit of Americas, is because this is the first time that this level of facility, and this facility specifically, has been accessible to club motorcycle racers. This was the very first club motorcycle racing, like amateur motorcycle race at this facility. Part of that is because the facility costs a fortune to rent. Like, the facility is huge. And so part of the reason it wasn't accessible is just because of the cost. But the CMRA, so the Central Motorcycle Road Racing Association, that I've been racing with, and my whole group of friends has been racing with this year, they went out and they have been promoting this event like crazy. They got the contract locked in, I think, like in January. They have been promoting this event. They had a live stream where they got a media company on board, and the media company, they went out and got a whole bunch of sponsors to help support the live stream. The CMRA, they got a ton of sponsors so that there were like cash payouts for racing for almost every class to try and attract more racers. They also opened up the event to motorcycle racers that are licensed with any club. So typically you have to have a race license with whatever motorcycle club you're racing with that calendar year. And so, like, say you wanted to race with the CMRA, but you also wanted to race with WERA, and you also wanted to race with ARMA, and you wanted to do a round at CVMA or something like that, like all these different race organizations across the United States. If you wanted to do something like that, typically you would have to go and get a race license from all of these different organizations to be able to race with them. And for most people, that doesn't make sense, especially if you're only going to be able to make it to like one or two events with that organization. However, the CMRA, they opened up this event at COTA to all other racing clubs. And they said, as long as you have a valid race license, you don't have to be a member of the CMRA, and you don't have to hold a CMRA license. It was basically, you paid your registration fees, but like the licensing was all free. So that attracted a lot of people from other organizations, especially because there was also payouts. So the payouts part of it is awesome because club motorcycle racing, we're doing it for fun. We are spending thousands and thousands of dollars of years to do what we love with our friends, have fun. And sometimes you might win a plastic trophy or like a little plastic plaque, or like you can see like the plaques and stuff behind me. Sometimes you might win something like that. But like some of these plaques behind me, I had to pay for them. So I won them, but you still have to pay for them. So like this event, just like having payouts, and they had big payouts. So like in the 500 class, you could win $500 for winning the 500 expert class. And it's like, that's not very common. So that was something really, really cool. But back to the facility. So this is a pro level facility, absolutely beautiful. They had like red, white, and blue curbing painted all over the track. They had like white stars. They have this big, giant, beautiful lighted observation tower, huge grandstands all over. Like it is meant for like a huge pro level event. The facility is ginormous, absolutely huge. And unfortunately, because of this being a club level event and how expensive it was to race the track, unfortunately they were not able to pay for like the extra security to have the entire facility open to us. So but they were able to open like some of it. So like the observation tower, they did open for a little while on Saturday. Unfortunately, it was closed by the time I tried to go up into it. But and like some of the grandstands and things like that were closed. But we were able to go up on like a lot of the bridges that were near the race paddock, and you could see a huge view from there. They were able to open up the garages, and so racers were able to rent garages at the facility. They had like balconies up above the garages, and it's like air conditioned like meeting rooms and ballrooms. And then you walk out on the other side of that, and there were a grandstand right on the straightaway with like stadium seating. And so that was open and accessible to us. Pretty much the only thing that was not easily accessible from the paddock area were the bathrooms. Typically for like pro level events, they would bring in shower houses and things like that, but there were not like readily available bathrooms and shower facilities in the paddock, which was a little bit of an issue. But the CMRA, they did an awesome job like trying to find ways to remedy the issue and taking care of it. So it ended up being kind of a non-issue by the end of the weekend. But yeah, just absolutely beautiful, amazing facility, amazing track. They're doing a lot of construction right now. They're like building an amusement park there where they were like building roller coasters and things like that. They were like next to the tracks. Like somebody could come to an event at the facility. They could drop off their kids at the amusement park, like ride some roller coasters for a while. They're also building like an amphitheater, kind of like concert venue area. It sounds like they're trying to make the facility like more accessible as like a family recreation type of facility for the entire Austin and surrounding area, not just racing. Anyways, like I said, beautiful facility. The track had some elevation, which was awesome. It had a lot of different types of corners. It had some really fast areas and it had some really slow technical areas. And it's huge. I think it's 3.4 miles long. It's huge. There's 20 corners. 20 corners. Okay, that is giant. And it makes it really difficult to learn because like in your head, like I'm getting ready to go out to race, and I'm like trying to like visualize and think through all the different corners, and I'm like going back to my track map, and I'm like, gosh, where am I even at on the track? So learning the corners definitely took a little bit more time than some of the other tracks because this place is huge. A little bit of kind of like an overview of the track layout. So the start line is on the front straightaway. And so you go down the front straightaway, it's flat, and then you go up this really big hill. And turn one is a blind corner at the top of this really big hill, and it's like a hairpin. So it's greater than 90 degrees. It's a very slow corner at the end of a long, fast straightaway. So you go up the hill into turn one, it's blind until you get like up and to the very crest of the hill, and you're in this slow corner. And then it's like this huge, big downhill into a wide open sweeper right-hand corner in turn two. And then like turns, I'm going to say like 3 through like 6, 8. I think 3 through 8. They're just like a series of S's where it's just like back and forth. And that's all really flat. But there's not like so there is curbing and it's all very flat, but then it's like all painted red, white, and blue all around it. So a little bit of a challenge was trying to see exactly where the curbing was, because the curbing is painted red and white. And then you've also got like red paint behind it. So as you're going through these S's where it's just back and forth, it's like, well, shoot, where's the track at? And that ended up being like a really fun section of the track that I really enjoyed. And like turn 2 through turn 8, I really enjoyed that section of the track. Actually, that's a lie. Turn 2 through like turn 10, I really enjoyed. But it was a little bit challenging to see where the curbing was and see where the track was. And when we first went out on track on Friday morning, that's when it was the most challenging, but it was also, it was cloudy and overcast in the morning. And so there was a lot of shadows. And once the sun came out and it got hot throughout the weekend, it was a lot easier to see when the sun was like up. But the reason that they had like all this big wide open space and it's painted and all of these things is because there's tons of runoff for MotoGP, for Formula One, for Moto America, like all these professional levels of racing, they've got tons of runoff for them. And so when you're talking like big professional racing and lots of runoff, they also do these things called track limits at that level of racing. So on a big track like COTA, when you come out of a corner, there will be areas on the outside of the track that are painted green. And that green is the track boundary. So I didn't know what that was. And one day in the riders meeting, somebody asked a question about like what are track limits? And I was like, what are they talking about? And then one of the guys explained to me like, oh, well, like you see those green stripes, like they have track limits in some, like in professional racing, because you don't want somebody like going way out off track and then coming back in and like taking advantage. Like they're making the track bigger when they do that. And when you make the track bigger, you can go faster. So they do it just like so that it's fair for everybody, I guess. Like everybody has the same size racetrack. And if you go out into the green in like a pro level race, like say MotoGP, for example, you go out of boundaries of the track, well, then you're going to take a penalty. And so a lot of that is like a long lap penalty where there will be like another section of the track that you have to go through. But it's a way that they can penalize you without making you like pit or something like that. So that is Circuit of the Americas. That's the facility. Overall, beautiful facility. Like honestly, it felt like a dream to be racing somewhere like that. Like when I started racing motorcycles, I never once imagined that I would be racing at the Circuit of Americas. To be honest, I thought Barber was like the top of the top. When I started racing motorcycles, when I said like I want to race motorcycles and was like, yeah, I'm actually going to do this. I had been to the Barber Vintage Festival and I had seen people racing at Barber, and I was like, this track is the epitome. Like this is the top of the top. I need to race at this track. And I did that my first year and it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm living a dream. I'm on cloud nine. This is amazing. And since then, I've gone to so many other facilities where I'm like, oh my goodness, I never would have imagined that I would be racing here or the experiences that I would be getting. So like, I never in my entire life thought or imagined that I would be racing at Circuit of the Americas. It was awesome. All right, so race weekend. Grid counts were huge. All of the CMRA grid counts or like grid sizes have been really big compared to any of the other organizations that I've raced with so far, which has been awesome. I love being on like a big grid. It's scary at the start, but it's awesome because I always have somebody to race with. And Scott has reminded me of that a couple of times throughout the season where I'm just like, I'm slow, like my lap times are not good. And he's like, Sid, there's a race here for everybody. He's like, there's so many people here. You are going to have somebody to race with. He's like, just go have fun. And that's what happened at Eagles Canyon. That's what happened again at COTA. And I just love the big grids. It's awesome. The only place that I've ever seen grid sizes as big as what we had at COTA was possibly at Barber for the Vintage Festival. But honestly, I think grid sizes were bigger at COTA. Like what did they say? They said that there was like 286 riders that were registered in the riders meeting. And that was like on Friday for the practice day. They were expecting more riders that were like local to the Austin or like just local in the Texas area that would come on Friday night and register on site on Saturday morning. They were expecting close to 300 riders. And I mean, even at 380 some or whatever it was, they were really close. So 300 riders, that's huge. And I mean, obviously it's spread through all these classes, but like some of the classes they had to split or they had to do like wave starts with like, I want to say the middleweight. It was either middleweight or it was heavyweight. One of those classes had like 50 amateurs or like 50 experts, and they had to do a wave start. Like some of those classes, typically you have like your experts and you have your amateurs. Your experts will grid up front, your amateurs will grid at the back, but you're all on the same like type of bike. So it was like middleweight race A and middleweight race B because there was just so many riders. Like that never happens. And seeing that, it just makes me so happy because it makes me feel like the sport is growing. Motorcycle racing over the last few years, like feels like it's kind of struggling at the club level from what it was. And I've even heard people say that before. And so just seeing that many people, like, it just makes me so happy. Makes me so happy. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just I'm in an excellent mood today, and you guys are probably going to get that to come through with the podcast. So you're welcome. All right, so Friday was practice, and I looked at lap times a little bit like before lunch, and there was a lot of people whose lap times were just all over the place. So I was not the slowest rider, and I was looking at lap times, so I was like, oh, okay, like cool. But my fastest lap before lunchtime or like at lunchtime was like a 3 minute 10-second lap time. That does not sound fast at all. It's not fast, but it was also not the slowest of everybody there. And it's part of the reason that lap times seem so much slower than, say, like when I talk about lap times at Hastings, is because this track is 3.4 miles. It is huge compared to, say, Motorsport Park Hastings, which is like 1.9. But anyways, so I was at like a 3 minute 10 lap time before lunch, and I was like, well, that's not quite where I want to be, but that's okay. And honestly, when I felt pretty good, like all day long during practice, I felt pretty good. I felt like I was like making progress every time, every session out. And by the end of the day, I looked at lap times again, and I was down to 2:55. And I was like, holy crap, Sydney, how did you do that? How did you find 15 seconds without even trying? So once I ran a 2:55 in practice, I was like, all right, I got this. And my goal for the entire weekend was a 2:52. Now, I don't want to spoil the surprise. I did not hit a 2:52, but I still had a lot of fun, and I still made some progress. Because this track is so big, the CMRA said that the 300s and the 500s, those two classes, we're going to race at the same time on Saturday and on Sunday. Basically, when I pre-registered, I had to pick, am I going to ride my 400 or am I going to ride my 300, and when am I going to ride either one? And so just to keep things maybe a little bit simpler on me and simpler on Sarah in our pit, when I pre-registered, I was like, I'm just going to ride one bike on one day and one bike the other day. And I didn't realize, like, I wasn't thinking about this like when I did it, but I signed up to ride my 400 on Saturday, signed up to ride my 300 on Sunday. So the two races that I was eligible for on Saturday were 500 GP and 500 Super Stock. I went out on those, and I was like, yeah, all right, this is going to be great. Well, I mentioned earlier, the two classes are combined. Like, you're not racing. If you're on a 500, you're not racing against people in the 300 class. Like, they're still separate classes, but you're all still on the racetrack at the same time. So the way that they set up the grid, you had your 500 experts at the front, then you had your 500 amateurs, then you had your 300 experts, and then at the far back, you had your 300 amateurs. And they did do a wave start. So it was like the 500 class went first, and then the 300 class went afterwards. But like with the CMRI, the wave starts are so short. Like, we're literally getting into turn one, and then the next wave is coming. I don't know, like a couple of seconds between like when they release wave one and wave two. It's wild. I've never been anywhere where there's like where the waves starts are so close together like that. But anyways, so I'm in the 500 class. I'm at the back of the 500 grid. And by the time I'm at like turn two, probably turn three, there's experts from the 300 class that are coming up and catching me. And the entire rest of the first lap, I was getting like buzzed by 300 expert riders. And even though they're on 300s, they're still moving. They're going fast. And that very first race on Saturday, it was a crash fest. So like in turn one, there was somebody in the 500 amateur class. At least I think he was in the amateur class. He might have been in the expert class, but he was in the 500 class. He had a bad start, and he came from the back of the pack, literally right into turn one, like a bowling ball. He just like cut across the track. He came in so fast and so hot into turn one. There is no way that this guy actually thought that he was going to get his bike slowed down and turned. There was no freaking way. I don't think he even touched the brakes before he tried to go into turn one. So he goes into turn one, he goes wide, he takes out like two other riders. And he crashed like two bikes in front of me. And so I'm watching all of this happen as I'm going to turn one, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to die this race. That's very first corner, very first lap. So then I'm getting buzzed by 300 expert racers for like the next several corners. And I get into turn 12, which is at the end of a long straightaway. And there's the same thing. There's still expert racers from the 300 class that are like coming through. They're like passing me on the brakes. They're passing me and other riders on the brakes into 12, which is another very slow hairpin corner. And one of the guys, he crashes in front of me. And as I'm like on the brakes coming into turn 12, he passes me. He's super late on the brakes, and the whole back of his bike is sliding around. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks sketchy. His bike is sliding around, and then he just loses the front. And his bike slides one way, his body is rolling another way. I'm coming through the corner, and I had a flashback from Barber last year where I have this guy rolling across the track in front of me. And this is like a kid. So this is like a 12-year-old kid. He's stupid fast. He walks me every time that I show up anywhere that he races. Actually, there's 2 kids with the CMRA that are stupid fast, and they just walk me on 300s. But anyway, he's rolling across the track, and I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, please do not run over a child. Don't run over a child. It's going to be okay. I didn't. I basically split him and his bike and then went through the corner. And that was all in the first lap. So my mindset then was just like, don't crash, Sydney. Don't crash. Don't get collected in a crash. Let's just finish this race. So I finished last in that race. I think I was a 2:55 in that race. So same time as my fastest lap in practice. But after seeing all those crashes, I was not trying to push it. I just wanted to finish the race and have fun and not get collected in a crash and not crash myself. Then I was again in race 6, was another 500 race. I think it was 500 GP. And it was kind of the same thing that happened in that race, where like going into turn 1 after seeing the start of the earlier race, I was like, all right, I'm not in a rush to get into turn 1. I have no problem going into turn 1 being last. But there was a lot of other people with that same sentiment, because there was a whole lot of people going a whole lot slower into turn 1 during that second race. And honestly, I don't remember anything remarkable that happened in the second race. I did witness a couple of more crashes, and there was like a lot of people that ran off track, and then you would just see somebody out in the grass. But I did get down to a 2:54, so I did get a little bit faster in that second race. I had a little bit more fun because I didn't feel like I was just fearing for my life. And I shouldn't put it that way, but like there are times that motorcycle racing is really scary. And that first lap, that first race of the day, it was scary. So that's something that like mentally I need to work on, like getting over that scared feeling of like the crashing. But I don't want to be taken out. Like you just don't want it to happen. And my buddy Dalton, he got taken out over the weekend. Like he got taken out in one of the races on Saturday where he was in the middleweight race, and they were in the S's, and he turned and a guy behind him just went straight. And so he's like in the corner and literally somebody just hit him. And that kind of stuff happens in racing. I have not experienced that yet. I know it's part of it. And I accept it, but it doesn't mean I want it to happen. So I kind of ride a little bit, I'm a little bit more reserved. I'm ride maybe a little bit more defensively. But yeah, so the second race, Saturday, I did have a little bit more fun. I got to a 2:54. Actually in the carousel, I was really happy. I was really proud of myself in the carousel because during practice on Friday, that first race on Saturday, I was taking the carousel 4th gear, and I'm just like wrapped out at red line. And I was scared to upshift because you have to shift into 5th pretty early, and then you're leaned over for a long time. And so when I was getting to the point where I needed to shift into 5th gear, I'm still leaned over, and I was like, the transmission is not as smooth in my Ninja 400 as it is in my R3. So I just wasn't comfortable shifting because like when I upshift on my 400, the bike kind of like jumps a little bit. So I was a little bit worried that if I shifted when I was leaned over, that it would upset the bike. And so I was just kind of like avoiding that. But in that second race, I did get into 5th gear, and I was like wide open, just on the throttle in 5th gear. And I was like, this is awesome. And the same thing in turn 2. Coming out of turn 2, I was wide open in 5th gear. And so I kind of went into that second race with like all right, get on the gas sooner, try and like wide open throttle, carry a little bit higher gear in some places. So there was like a couple of things that I was trying to, because I wanted to get faster. But I think I finished 10th. I finished 10th out of 13 riders in that second race on Saturday. The first race on Saturday, I finished 14th out of 14 riders in my class. There was like 40 bikes on grid, 40, 45, something like that on grid. but 14 in my class that I was racing against. Sunday, I had signed up to ride my R3 and only my R3. So I was in 300 Superbike and 300 GP on Sunday. And I was gridded in, I was actually like in the middle of the 300 amateur grid, but 300 amateurs were all the way at the back, which was a lot better for me because I wasn't getting buzzed by faster riders during the race. And I could really just like have fun and like push it. And I was so excited after that first race on Sunday. So both of my races on Sunday were in the afternoon. I was raced like 10 and 14 out of 15 races on Sunday. So I just had to sit around all morning. And all morning I had like nerves and I'm anxious and it's hot outside. And I'm like, I can't tell if I feel funny because of like nerves and being anxious, or if I feel funny because of the heat. I can't tell if I have a tummy ache because I'm hungry, or because of the heat, or because I'm nervous, or like what is going on. I just had so many things going on. I was like, I just don't feel good. I don't feel good. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is scary. What's going to happen? And so I said something to Scott about how I was going to finish last again. And he looked at me. He goes, Sydney, there's a race here for everybody. He's like, go have fun. And that first race on Sunday was so much fun. So much fun. I did pass a couple of people pretty early in the race, and then I got caught in this trio. And so I was trying to catch a couple of the guys. I got around one of them in the last corner of the last lap. I got around like the guy in the second part of the pack. And then the guy that was at the front of our little trio of three, I was trying to draft him to the finish line. And unfortunately, the finish line is at one end of the straightaway and the start line is at the other end of the straightaway. So he was actually in the 500 class. I was like, I want to catch this guy and pass him. And at the time, I didn't realize that he was in the 500 class. So I was trying to draft him. His bike had way more power than I did, but I couldn't get around him. I couldn't. The draft wasn't enough to help me catch him before we got to the finish line, which was, like I said, at the closer end of the straightaway to the last corner. But I came back, giant smile on my face, and I'm like, all right, that is what it's all about. Like, that was so fun. And Sarah was like, how'd you do? And I was like, that was so much fun. Oh my gosh. And she's like, good. I'm glad. So then I went out again in race 14 and I was like, I'm going to go faster. So I think in that I ran a 2:55 on my R3 in that first race. And I was like, hot damn. And honestly, it might have been a 2:54.7. It was really close to my fastest lap time. And I was like, hot damn, I'm on a 300. But with the 300, I was just trying to carry more corner speed. And I was braking later because I'm going slower. But so then I went out for the second race on Sunday. And same thing. I ended up in kind of like a trio. I don't recall having like a great start. But at the start of the race, like the first like couple of laps, I had a lot of passes. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I don't pass people very well. I hardly ever pass people on the brakes. And so I was able to pass a couple of people on the brakes. And I was also able to pass somebody on the inside going into a corner. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. But so I was super, super excited about that. And like just the passing, and it was the same thing where I kind of got caught in this like little trio again. And one of the people in that little trio that I was with and like passing back and forth with, it was the same guy that I tried to draft in the race before. So I knew that he wasn't in my class, but I was like, I don't care. I just want to race with people. And I ended up finishing 5th and 6th. And I think it was 6th in the first race, 5th in the second race, or vice versa. The grid size in my class was a little bit smaller, so there was only 10 riders in both of those races. But like middle of the pack like that, I was more than happy with it. Like, anytime I don't finish last or I don't get lapped, that's a good, awesome day. So those races were really, really fun, really good for me. I need to go into races without an expectation and just go into it with the mindset, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to find somebody to race with. I'm going to chase somebody if I can. And those are always the races that I have the best time in. And I ended up getting down to a 2:54.1, which is faster than my fastest lap on my 400 while I was riding my R3. And I was like, okay. So a little counterintuitive, but I was very happy with it. I actually drug knee on my 300 during like practice on Sunday morning, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is going to be a great day. I don't drag knee like ever. And so being able to drag knee at a new track that I'm not familiar with, especially in practice, that was awesome. Some of the other weekend happenings. So I was down there with all of my normal crew. So we had Scott, Dalton, Muck, and Guthrie all racing with us. We had Sarah as our pit crew, and Deanna was also our pit crew. Deanna is still a little bit banged up, so she was just our pit crew. And having her at the race, like at race weekends with us, has been such a fun addition to the crew. Like, she's awesome. Dalton, he had a second place finish in one of the races, in one of the 500 races. So that was pretty cool. He got a little plaque, and we went to the award ceremony and stuff on Saturday. Scott, Dalton, and Muck, they were on it. Where they wanted to win so bad, and they were like battling back and forth with each other. They always came back, and they were like always in the middle of some kind of battle. With the CMRA, it's Texas, and there's a lot of really fast local people with Texas, and there's some pros that race down there as well. And so like they were battling with some of the pros and some of the really fast guys. So that's fun for me to see. I know that they were a little bit frustrated with some of the situations, but that happens. Unfortunately, all three of them went down that weekend. Actually, Dalton went down twice. I mentioned before that Dalton got hit on Saturday in the middleweight race. So he went down in the middleweight race, but it was not his fault at all. And he comes back on the crash truck, and immediately he's in the 500 race, and he goes right back out. And there's something about Dalton crashing and then being in the very next race, and he literally just jumps on a different bike and goes right back out, that just blows my mind, but it also just makes me smile, where I'm like, this guy is an animal. Can I be like him? Like, I just want to ride like Dalton. It's awesome. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I was going to say something that sounds really weird, and I don't want to go there. But, and then Muck crashed on Friday in practice on his 600. He lost the front. He really wasn't sure what happened. And then when he came back on the crash truck, he was like dealing with some heat exhaustion. So I'm not sure if that had anything to do with his crash. Muck, sorry for talking about your crash on the podcast like this, but it's part of the weekend. You guys are just my guinea pigs for the podcast stories now. Then on Sunday, Scott and Dalton, they were battling with some people. They were up front, and Dalton loses the front and crashes. Scott crashes right next to him. I had no idea that they crashed. I didn't see them on track or anything like that. They were in the wave in front of me. So they were on their 400s in the 500 class. I was on my 300 in that race. So we started in different waves. They're way faster than me. So like they were gone anyways. But I came back to the pit after the second race, and I was like, Dalton, what's going on? Because I'm on my cool down lap for the race. There's nobody in front of me for miles. And I come up behind this bike that's going really slow through one of the double apex and like driving around the outside of the track and like just going really slow. And so I come up behind him, and I'm like, wait, that's Dalton. That's Dalton's suit. I'm like, what is he doing? Did he like take an extra lap in the race and like didn't realize it was the finish? Like, what happened? So I come back into the pit. I'm right behind him. I'm all amped up. Everybody else in our pit is already back. And I look at Dalton, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he goes like, what do you mean, what am I doing? And I'm like, why are you going so slow on the cool down lap? He's like, oh, I was just riding my bike in. I'm like, what? Use more words. And so then I found out like he went down, and he was like off out in the grass, like a corner worker station. And after the race was over, he was cleared to like pick up his bike and ride it back in. And then Scott said something about how he crashed. And I was like, what? You guys both crashed in the same race? Like, where did you crash at? I didn't see you. Scott rode his bike in during the race, maybe? Or like on the crash truck and they got back before I did? He might have been on the crash truck and got back before I did. Not completely sure on that one. But he's like, oh yeah, we crashed at the same time. Dalton crashed, and then I crashed right next to him. And I was like, huh, dad and son crashing right next to each other. By the way, that's a joke. They're not actually dad and son. Um, and some of the other weekend happenings, me and Deanna were like, it's 4th of July. We need to do like some normal 4th of July stuff. So like 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, after I had finished racing, I was like, I need to grill hot dogs. It's 4th of July and I can't get through the day without a hot dog. There's like 2 or 3 staple items that I have to have on 4th of July, and watermelon, hot dogs, and some sort of like red, white, and blue dessert are kind of where it's at. Oh, and my grandma's potato salad. That's just random and off topic, but we had hot dogs. It was great. We made jokes about having wieners in our mouth, which is pretty typical for our group. Watched a lot of racing. We went to the award ceremony. Dalton and Deanna had like the cutest red, white, and blue American flag matching overalls, like short overalls. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. If you are not following me on Instagram, you should be. But there is a picture of them in their little matching overalls on my Instagram where I did a photo dump from the Circuit of the Americas weekend. So go check it out. My Instagram is midwest.motogirl, just like the name of the podcast. And then Saturday night, they had a like a concert and a fireworks show. I thought the fireworks were at 10. So I'm like dead tired. I'm like, oh, I want to go to sleep. I want to go to sleep. But I was trying to stay up so I could watch the fireworks. Like I cannot do a 4th of July without fireworks. So it's like 10:15. The fireworks haven't gone off. I'm just lying in my trailer. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to go to sleep. And so I got out and I'm like outside looking around. I even rode my little scooter down to the other side of the paddock to see like, oh, the concert is still happening? What's going on? So I go and ask the security guard. I'm like, is there fireworks tonight? Like, what is going on here? He's like, yeah, they're at 11. I'm like, what? Why did I think they were at 10? So then I was like, well, gosh, this sucks, but I have to stay up. So stayed up until 11 p.m. on Saturday night during a race weekend. Was out in the heat all day. I was exhausted. So tired. The CMRA starts really early. Like riders meeting is at 7 a.m. every day. We're on track by 8 a.m. So like staying up late is not a thing. I was like half asleep and I was just trying to keep myself awake so I could go and see the fireworks. I'm just sitting outside in our pit, like everybody's inside sleeping. I'm like just looking around, watching the fireworks, like all excited and happy. And then pretty soon Muck comes outside and he's watching the fireworks and he looks over at me. He's like, you nerd. But he sits down and starts watching fireworks with us. Guthrie's daughter, Alyssa, she also came outside and she just comes and sits down with me and we're just the three of us, just watching them, having a great time. They were pretty good, but somebody got the timing off. And so like the grand finale was kind of like in the middle and they had like a bunch of small stuff that was at the very end. So somebody messed up the timing in the fireworks show, but they were still good. And it was really cool because from our pit, you're looking up and you're seeing the observation tower that's like all lit up and it's like lit up in red at nighttime. And then you had the fireworks like next to it. And so you've got like this big red patriotic lighted observation tower and like red, white, and blue fireworks going off. It was really pretty. And I think it was cool. It felt very American-y, very American. I don't think that's a word. Felt very America, very 4th of July. And it was awesome. It was an awesome weekend. It was phenomenal. But then at the end of the weekend, because all of my races were at the end of the day on Sunday, I pretty much got off track and it was time to like immediately clean up the paddock and clean up our pit and go home. And that is like the worst part of a race weekend is tearing down our pit and going home. I feel like I almost always have a race towards the end of the day. So like I get off track and I'm like all amped up and excited. And then it's like, oh, racing's over for the day now. And it's not just like racing is over for the day. Like for me, racing is over for everybody. So it's like, oh, well, shoot. I'm excited and I'm all pumped up from this, having this great weekend, but now I don't have a choice, but I have to like accept the reality that it's over and we have to pack up. So that's like the worst part of the weekend, but it is what it is. Like it's part of it. And even after I pack up, like I drive home and I'm on this high, like I'm on an absolute high. And usually like the first couple of days that I come home, I'm still like living this high. Actually, after the Coda weekend, it was a little bit different because I was on this high the whole drive home. It took me a long time to get home. I left the track at like 5:30 p.m. It's like a 14+ hour drive with Texas traffic to get home. So I drove until midnight, slept in my truck. Don't judge me. I do it sometimes. And then I drove the rest of the way in the morning. And, oh, actually, funny story. On my way home in the morning, it was like 6 a.m. I'm driving through Oklahoma City. And I get pulled over on the interstate. And I'm just like, oh God, okay, why am I getting pulled over? I'm not speeding. It was an unmarked cop car, like unmarked SUV. And he was going kind of slow on the interstate. So I was like going to pass him. And then he sped up. So then I was like, okay, well, I won't pass him. I'll just stay in my lane. And then he like got up next to me. And so like we're driving like next to each other for a minute. And then he slows down and gets behind me. And I was like, what is this guy doing? Well, then I see his lights. He flips his lights on and pulls me over. I was just like, gosh dang it. How did I not realize that was a cop? But he pulls me over. He goes, I pulled you over because you were on your cell phone. And I couldn't deny it. I probably was. I had responded to a text message at some time, like while I was near this black SUV. But so he takes my license and registration and insurance, like all of that kind of stuff. I noticed, like, before he walked up to my window, that he's looking at all the stuff on my trailer. And then he goes back and he's looking at all the stuff on my trailer again. And we're sitting on the side of the interstate. I have like my emergency flashers on. So like the flashers are going off on my trailer. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what is he going to write me a ticket for? He like looked at my safety chains. He looked at my trailer lights. He, the jack broke on my trailer while we were at Coda. So I didn't have a jack on it. And I don't know if maybe that's what he was looking at. He's like, what's going on here? But I'm like, oh God, he's going to try and write me some ticket and he's going to say something stupid about the way my trailer is hooked up because he spent way too much time looking at the connection to my trailer to the back of my truck. And then he came back to the window and he asked me a couple of questions. He asked me where I was coming from. And I told him that I was coming from Circuit of the Americas. And he's like, looks at me like, what? And I said, in Austin, Texas. And he goes, oh, okay. He goes, what were you doing there? I said, I was racing. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, Circuit of the Americas racing makes sense, right? And so he's like, is this your current address? Like, you live in Nebraska? I said, yes. He goes, are you on your way back to Nebraska now? Yes. He goes, okay, well, you're on your cell phone. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you were looking at a map or getting directions. He's like, just try to keep the cell phone use to a minimum. Like, you can have a good day. I was like, oh, sweet. Thank you. Shortly after that, I texted one of my friends and he's like, that wasn't a cop. He was like, that was DOT. You don't have DOT numbers on your truck. Like, just assuming that you're construction or something like that. And he's going to get you on a DOT violation. Well, he didn't. I'm not a commercial driver and I'm not a construction crew. But that was fun and interesting. I've never been pulled over by DOT before, but once my buddy was like, oh yeah, like that's DOT if he's in an unmarked car. He's like, and I was like, oh, well, that makes a whole lot more sense why he's looking at my safety chains and all kinds of stuff like that. Like, he spent way too much time looking at that for just being a normal cop. So anyways, I'm on this high. Even after getting pulled over, I'm still on this epic high. I didn't get a ticket, by the way. I'm still on this epic high from the weekend. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm out living my dreams. This is awesome. Get home at like 3:00 in the afternoon, have like a nice, enjoyable, relaxing evening on Monday night, go back to work on Tuesday. I got to work on Tuesday morning. I literally walked into my office and I looked around and I was like, ugh, this is what normal people do. Normal people have to go to work every day. I was like, I don't want to be normal. I don't want to say I was in a bad mood, but I was just like, ugh, this is boring. This is normal people stuff. I don't want to be normal. So if anybody has any tips on how a slow amateur club level racer can get paid to race motorcycles all the time and not have to work a regular job, let me know. Please hit me up, hook me up, give me some ideas. I would love to hear them. And actually, after, like the whole next week after that, so I went back to work on a Tuesday. Tuesday was like, okay. I was like kind of still on this high, but I was just like, oh, I have to go back to work. Like, and then like Wednesday, Thursday were awful. I was in such a bad mood on Wednesday and Thursday. And I thought like, oh, maybe it's just like work stress. And then I started thinking about it. And you're racing, you're on this epic high. You like come down. And then you go back to work and you hit bottom. And where it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like the serotonin wears off, the endorphins wear off, all the like emotions and like epic, awesome feeling where like you're living out your dreams, you have this like extraordinary life. All of that wears off and you're just like, ugh, life sucks. I have to work and I can't ride any more motorcycles. So thankfully that wore off pretty quick. I got myself out of it by riding dirt bikes last weekend and going for a run and doing some things for myself, like around the house. But that's probably the worst part about motorcycle racing is that you come home from a race weekend and then you have to go back to the real world and do real world people things. And I've actually heard people say that a lot of like club level racers, they only race for a couple of years because like the highs are really high, but then the lows can be really, really low. Where like during the winter or after you come home from a race weekend and you have to like readapt to a normal life where you don't get to do like fun and exciting stuff all the time, like it can really get you down and in the dumps. And for some people, it can even cause like seasonal depression and things like that. But anyways, so recap, I'm going to wrap this up. I've been rambling for a long ass time about how phenomenal the weekend was, how much fun it was. Like I said, the high that I was on, and even just talking about it and thinking about it, I'm still just like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I raced at Circuit of the Americas. Phenomenal track, awesome facility. It felt like a dream come true. And I love seeing so many people on the grid, so many people coming out to the races. I can't think of a better way to spend one of my favorite holidays other than doing the things that I love at like one of the most America facilities in the United States. That was the weekend. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I will be back at Motorsport Park Hastings with Track Addicts. We'll be out there on Friday, July 24th, Saturday, July 25th, and Sunday, July 26th. That whole weekend is the Great Plains Ducati Festival that's put on by Ducati of Omaha. And so Friday, I'll just be out there doing some demo rides. Saturday, doing the track day, GP race at the end of the day. And then Sunday, I'll do some riding and doing some more demo rides. And there should be a whole crew, whole big ton of people there. It's going to be awesome. If you are in the Midwest or in Nebraska, you should come out to Motorsport Park Hastings, check it out. Even if you're not riding or participating in the Ducati Festival with like demo rides or anything like that, come check it out, be a spectator, and just enjoy part of the fun. We don't have a lot of spectators at the race. So when we do get spectators and you get people like in the stands cheering for you, it makes you feel like a celebrity. So please come out, please come watch. It's going to be an awesome weekend. We're going to have a ton of fun. There's actually a decent sized grid for lightweight amateur, which is the class that I'll be racing in at the end of the day. I think this is one of the biggest grids that I've seen since I've been racing with Track Addicts in the lightweight amateur group. So I'm pretty excited for that. So thanks you for tuning in today. If you are enjoying the podcast, please hit that follow button. You will get notifications anytime that there is a new podcast out. You can leave reviews on the podcast. You can also leave comments. Tell me about the things that you want to hear. Tell me about the things that you enjoy from my race recaps or things that I could do better. I love getting feedback from my listeners. And if you're not following me on social media, you should be. Again, my Instagram is midwest.motogirl and my Facebook is Sydney Guard Racing. So go give those pages a follow. Please share them with your friends and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.